We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph Mesechet Yevamos. This is Yevamos Daf 77a. The Gemara here continues the story. Akshaluhu doe kol hani koshyasa. So when they said in the Beis Medrash Amoni v'lo Amonis, Moavi v'lo Moavis, so Doeg asked all the questions that he asked on the previous Amud in terms of that drasha. So Ishtiku, so they were quiet. So Boilach Ruzi Oleh. So then he wanted to make an announcement that really David HaMelech cannot marry into the community because again he's a descendant of Rus HaMoaviyah. And so the Gemara says, Miyad va'amasa ben ishu shmo Yisra ha-Yisraeli. Amasa, he was the son of a man whose name was Yisra ha-Yisraeli. Asher boel Avigail bas Nachash. And he had relations together with Avigail bas Nachash. Uchsib, but there's another pasuk that says, Yeser ha-Yishmaeli. It doesn't call him Yisra ha-Yisraeli. It calls him Yeser ha-Yishmaeli. So what does it mean? Amar Rava says, Melamed shechagar charbo ki Yishmael. It shows that he took out his sword, he wielded his sword like Yishmael. V'amar, and he said, Kol mi she'eno shomea halacha zu. Anybody who doesn't listen to this halacha, yidager becherev, he should be pierced with a sword. Kach mekublani mi beis dino shel Shmuel haramasi. This is what I have as a tradition from the court of Shmuel haramasi. Amoni v'lo Amonis, Moavi v'lo Moavis. It's an Amoni, not Amonis, and it's Moavi and not Moavis. But the Gemara continues, Umi mehemin, should Yisra ha-Yisraeli really have been believed in issuing this ruling of Amoni v'lo Amonis and Moavi v'lo Moavis? V'yomer Rabbi Abba amar Rav, but didn't Rabbi Abba say in the name of Rav, Kol Talmud Chacham shemora halachu va, any Talmud Chacham who issues a ruling, im kodem ma'isa amar, so if he issued it before the issue arose, before the incident came up, so shomen lo, so then we listen to him. V'im lavein shomen lo, but if not, we don't listen to him. In other words, over here, the question has already arisen regarding the status of all of the descendants of Rus, and therefore it's too late for him to issue this ruling. And also we should mention additionally that Yisra ha-Yisraeli was the son of Avigail. Avigail was the daughter of Yishai. So this ruling affected him directly as well. And so the Gemara answers, no, Shani Hach, it's different over here. The Shmuel ubeis dino kayim, because Shmuel and his court were right there in front. They were there present. So the fact that he's issuing the ruling in front of them, and they could certainly refute it if they were able to refute it. So therefore, we trust his ruling. And the Gemara continues, Mikol Makom Kasha, but nevertheless, don't we still have the question of Doeg HaAdomi? Because the question was, we said that when it came to the Ammoni, the prohibition against the Ammonim, so it was because they didn't come out, they didn't greet Klal Yisrael when they left Mitzrayim, Balechem Uvamayim, they didn't greet them with bread and water. And so we understood that to mean, whose way is it to come out and greet? It's the way of the men, not the way of the women, and therefore the prohibition only applies to the Ammoni and the Moavi. It doesn't apply to the women. And so the question of Doeg, one of the questions of Doeg was, but 1 second, the women could have come out at least and greeted the women. And so the Gemara now answers, Tirgamu kol kavuda bas melech penima. Here they answer the question by bringing the pasuk in Tehillim that the honor of the daughter of the king is to be on the inside. In other words, even to come out and greet the women would have been a breach of modesty, and therefore, again, the pasuk is clearly talking about the men. B'ma'arova Amri, in the West, they say, V'itema Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, and some people say that Rabbi Yitzchak is the one that says, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Vayomru Elov Ayei Sarah Ishtecha V'gomer. They said to Avram, where is Sarah your wife? Again, she was inside the tent out of modesty, and therefore again the pasuk would seemingly be referring only to the men and not to the women. And the Gemara continues, Ketanoi, let us say this is a machlokas Tanoim, Amoni v'lo Amonis, Moavi v'lo Moavis, Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda darshans that it says Amoni, not Amonis, it says Moavi, not Moavis. Rabbi Shimon says, Al dvara shelokid moeschem balechem u'v'mayim, because of the fact that they didn't come out to greet you with bread and water, and Darko shalish lekadim v'chula, the pasuk is talking about men, because it's the way of the men to come out and greet, and it's not the way of the women. Now it seems that both Tanoim agree over here. So what do we mean? It's a machlokas Tanoim. Rashi explains, Ketanoi, the iko de nafkale me Amoni. The point is, some learn it directly out of the pasuk of Amoni, meaning Amoni v'lo Amonis. The iko de nafkale me al dvar, and some learn it from the pasuk of al dvar. It's just a question of what is the source. And the Gemara continues, Darash Rava Darshans Maidich Siv. What does the pasuk mean when it says Pitachta l'mosei roi? David HaMelech says in Tehillim, you've undone my bands. Amar David lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David says in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribona Shalom, the Master of the world, Shnei Mosaros Shahayu Alai, the two bands that were upon me, they were holding me back. Pitachtim, you've opened them up for me, you've loosened them for me. Rus HaMoaviyah v'nama HaMonis. That refers to Rus HaMoaviyah, like we're saying over here. He was a descendant of Rus, and it could have been that he couldn't enter the community, but that was allowed. And also Naama ha'amonis, Rashi over here says, Naama imo shel Rechavam. Naama was the mother of Rechavam. Umimeno yotzu malchei beis David. It was from her that the malchei beis David, they descended from her, and therefore, with regards to her as well, the drasha of Amoni v'lo Amonis, it permitted them to marry into the kahal. And the Gemara continues, Darash Rava Darshans Maidich Siv. What does the pasuk mean when it says Rabo Sasiso Ato Hashem Elokai Niflosecho Machshavosecho Eleinu? So it says there's many great things that you've done, wonders that are upon us, that are towards us. And so the Gemara Darshans Elai Lo Nemar. It doesn't say to me. It doesn't say that these wonders were for me, for David HaMelech. Elo Eleinu. It says it's towards us in plural. Who is that referring to? Melamed, this comes to teach Shahaya Rechavam Yoshe B'Cheiko Shel David. That Rechavam was sitting in the lap of David HaMelech. Amar Lo, and he said to him, Alai V'Olecha Nemru Shtei Mikros Halalu. It's about me and about you that these two psukim were said. In other words, Moavi V'Lo Moavis and Ammoni V'Lo Ammonis. That allowed not only David HaMelech, but it also allowed Rechavam, as we said, because his mother was Na'amo HaAmmonis. And the Gemara continues, Darash Rava Darshans Maidich Siv. What does the pasuk mean when it says in Tehillim, Ozamarti Hine Basi? I said that now I came, but Megillah Sefer Kasav, but it was written in a scroll about me. And the pasuk means as follows: Amar David said, Ani Amarti Ata Basi. I thought that I just came now, meaning when I was born, that's when I came into existence, so to speak. V'lo yada'ati shebemegillah sefer kasav alai. But I didn't know that already in an ancient scroll, there's already hints to me, it's already written about me. Because Hasam Ksiv, because over there it says, this is talking about by Lot's daughters, it says Hanim Tsaos. It says the two daughters that are found, in other words, you should take your daughters. And Hacha Ksiv, and over here it says, and this is also a pasuk in Tehillim, Matsasi, using the same language of Hanim Tsaos, Matsasi David Avdi. I found David b'Shemen Kodshim Meshachtiv, and I anointed him with the Shemen Kodesh, with the holy oil. And so the idea is that it was already determined back by the daughters of Lot, who were the mothers of Ammon and Moab, that eventually David HaMelech came from them. As Rashi over here explains, Ani Amarti b'Shoshanim Shachti Ata Basi L'Gedula. I thought that when I was anointed as the king, that's when I came to greatness. Umikarav Paskul L'Gedula Zu. I thought it came recently to me, this greatness. But Lo Yadati, I didn't know Shimimei Avram, that already from the days of Avram, Nichtava Alai b'Megillah Sefer, was already written, alluded to in an ancient scroll. Again, this idea of the countries of Ammon and Moab that would eventually give forth the dynasty of David HaMelech. And the Gemara continues, Amar Ula Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Ula says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Bas Ger Ammoni K'Sheira L'Kohen. If you have the daughter of an Ammoni who converted, she is K'Sheira to marry a Kohen. And so the Gemara says, Amar Le Rava Bar Ula L'Ula. Rava, the son of Ula, said to Ula, Kaman, who are you following in this ruling? Ika Rabbi Yehuda, if you're following the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, Ha'amar Bas Ger Zachar K'Bas Cholol Zachar. On the contrary, he says the daughter of a male convert is the same thing as the daughter of a male Cholol, and is not allowed to marry a Kohen. And the Gemara continues, V'ikar Rabbi Yossi, and if you're following the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, Pshita, it's obvious that she should be Ksher L'Kahuna. Ha'amar, because he says, Af Ger Shanasa Giores, Bito Ksher L'Kahuna. Even if you have a situation of a Ger that marries a Giores, meaning both the father and the mother are converts, the daughter is Ksher L'Kahuna. So it's obvious that the daughter of a Ger Ammoni would be Ksher L'Kahuna. And the Gemara continues, and if you're going to say, Bahanoch Deru'i in love of Bekal, that statement of Rabbi Yossi was only in a situation of converts who are allowed to marry into the community. Aval Hai, but in this case over here, where the person is a Ger Ammoni, De'in Roy love of Bekal, where he's not able to marry into the community, lo, so Rabbi Yossi never said his halacha over there, and therefore it is a Chiddush. Rabbi Yochanan is saying, even in a situation of the daughter of a Ger Ammoni, it's Ksheira L'Kahuna. Don't think that Rabbi Yossi would not extend his halacha to the daughter of a Ger Ammoni. But the Gemara says Menali, but from where would he even know to make such a distinction that that's even a Chiddush? Once Rabbi Yossi says that if it's a Ger Shanasa Giores Bito Ksher L'Kahuna, shouldn't it be obvious to extend that to a Bas Ger Ammoni? And so the Gemara says, no, it's not necessarily obvious. The Yolif mi Kohen Gadol Ba'almana, because he learns out from Kohen Gadol Ba'almana. Kohen Gadol marries an Almana, that's a forbidden relationship, and over there the daughter is not allowed to Kahuna, and so therefore you would think also a Bas Ger Ammoni, maybe that's not allowed to Kahuna, and that's the Chiddush. Bas Ger Ammoni is Ksher L'Kahuna. But the Gemara says, why would you even think to make that limud? Ma'ala Kohen Gadol ba'almana shekain be also ba'avera. Kohen Gadol with an almana, there the bia, the whole relationship is an avera. Like we said, it's a forbidden relationship. Over here, the daughter of a Ger Ammoni is not necessarily the product of a forbidden relationship. Let's say the Ger Ammoni marries a Giores Ammonis, that would be a perfectly permitted relationship. So what kind of comparison is it? And the Gemara continues, well, Cholol Yochiach, Cholol can prove it. Because Ma'ala Cholol shekain yitziraso ba'avera. But the Gemara says, no, Cholol doesn't prove anything either, because the daughter of a Cholol, but the Cholol himself was created by Avera. So again, the Gemara wanted to say that the daughter of a Cholol is not allowed to marry Kahuna, so that's why you might think that the Bas Ger Ammoni also is not allowed to marry Kahuna. That's why it's a Chiddush to say Ksher L'Kahuna. But again, the Gemara says, no, there's something unique, because a Cholol himself, that person, was created through a forbidden relationship, Yitziraso Ba'avera. But the Gemara says, no, Kohen Gadol yochiach, but Kohen Gadol can prove the other way, because Kohen Gadol was not Yitziraso ba'avera. The Chazer Adina, we would go back and forth, we would knock out what is unique in each case. Lo roizeh karoizeh, lo roizeh karoizeh. The case of a Cholol, the case of Kohen Gadol ba'almana, they're not similar to one another. In what way are they similar? Hatzad hashaveh shebehen, the common denominator of the two cases is she'eino barov kol, that in both situations the individual is not allowed to marry the majority of the community. Ubito psula, and his daughter is psula. So afkan, so too over here, she'eino barov kol ubito psula. You have a situation of a daughter of a ger amoni, and he himself is not fit to marry into the majority of the kol. So you might have thought that the daughter is psula, and that's why it's a chiddush to say the daughter is kshera. But the Gemara says still you wouldn't have thought that. But in the case of the tzad hashava, meaning by both the case of Kohen Gadol and Almana, and by the case of the Cholol, there's some kind of aver involved. Either it's the forbidden relationship of the Kohen Gadol and the Almana, or it's the Cholol himself was a product of avera, yitziraso ba'avera. And so finally the Gemara says, Dilma vadai, and the Bach takes out the word vadai, Dilma ba'amoni shenasa bas Yisrael ka'amrit. Maybe what you were really saying was a chiddush as follows. You're talking specifically about an Ammoni that is in a forbidden relationship, and he marries a bas Yisrael, and therefore that already is a chiddush, because now the daughter is a product of a forbidden relationship, and so you're saying, afagav, even though to be also ba'avera, that the relationship is an avera, the bia is done ba'avera, bito kshera, still his daughter is kshera lekahuna. And the Gemara says, Amar Lei said to him, yes, that's exactly what I was saying. When I said the daughter of a ger amoni is kshera lakuna, I meant specifically when it was involving a forbidden relationship. And Rashi over here says, first, Ma lecholo sheken yitziraso ba'avera, a cholo was created ba'avera, shabias aviv v'imo ba'avera, meaning the father and the mother of the cholo, their relationship was an avera. Tomer ba'amoni, shen yitziraso ba'avera. This amoni over here, he wasn't created ba'avera. Kohen Gadol yochech, but Kohen Gadol proves the other way, she'en yitziraso ba'avera, bito me'almana psula. There he wasn't created by Avera, but his daughter from an Almana is Psula. And finally the Gemara said, Atzad HaShaveh Shebehen She'enan Barov Kol. In both cases, the Kohen Gadol and also by the Chala, they're not in the majority of the community. What does that mean? Einon Keshar Rov Yisrael. It just means they're not like the rest of the majority of the Jewish people. Shareyesh Bekul and Sad Pagam, because there's something blemished over here. Kohen Gadol Biyaso Ba'avera. The Kohen Gadol had this Bia Ba'avera. Chalol Yitziraso Ba'avera. The Chol was created Ba'avera. Ammoni Eino Roy Lava Bekal. The Ammoni is not able to marry into the community. There's something in common, but then the Gemara says not in common, because Tzad Avera, the case of the Kohen Gadol, and the case of the Chala, there's some kind of Avera, an actual Avera. Bas Kohen Gadol Yitzirasa Ba'avera, Bas Chol Yitzir Savia Ba'avera. By the daughter of the Kohen Gadol, her creation was Ba'avera. The daughter of the Chala, so the Chala, the father, his creation was Ba'avera. Tomer Ba'amonis She'in Avera, Lo B'Yitzirasa, V'Lo B'Yitzir Savia. By the Amonis, there's no Avera here at all, because again, he might be in a permitted relationship. Upshita Shekshera, therefore it's too obvious that she's Kshera Lavo B'Kahuna. And the Gemara continues, the Chiyasa Ravin Amar Rabbi Yochanan, because when Ravin came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Bas Ger Amoni, if you have the daughter of a Ger Amoni, Ubas Mitzri Sheni, or you have the daughter of a Mitzri Sheni, and Rashi says, Bas Ger Amoni and Mitzri Sheni, Shenasu Bas Yisrael. We're talking about exactly the case we just said, where they marry a Bas Yisrael, Ubiyasan Ba'avera, and therefore the Bia is Ba'avera, the relationship is an Avera, and so in that exact case, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kshera, Rabbi Yochanan says she's Kshera to Kahuna, just like Rabbi Yochanan said above, that was Ula quoting Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish Amar Psula, and Reish Lakish says Psula. Reish Lakish Amar Psula, Diyala Flame, Kohen Gadol Ba'almana. Reish Lakish says Psula because he learns it out from Kohen Gadol and Almana. That forbidden relationship, the product of that relationship, is not allowed to marry Kuhn, and the same thing over here. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kshera, Rabbi Yochanan says Kshera, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Zayin Amid Beis.